Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of our Illustrator experiments. So today we are going to play around with the pen tool. So let's go ahead and first open up Illustrator and press the start button. My Illustrator is on my main menu, but if it's not for you, go to All Programs, Adobe Design Premium CS5, and Adobe Illustrator CS5. The pen tool in Illustrator works very similar to the pen tool in Photoshop. Now, we didn't have extensive use with the pen tool in Photoshop, so we'll get our use of it here. Now, remember we talked about last class when we are starting a new document, go to File, New. You will be able to select a number of artboards, create a name, so you can make this one pen tool, and just need one artboard for this. If you don't have your unit set up to inches and it's on points, your numbers may be different here. I'm on the legal setting. I'm going to go ahead and just change it to letter, keep it a normal page size, and click OK. So here's my artboard I'm going to work on today. The pen tool is the third tool down, in our second block of tools here. So when you click on the pen tool, there are different options. If you hold down on the pen tool, you will have the add an anchor point, delete an anchor point, and convert an anchor point. You can actually bring this window out. This is something we didn't talk about when we were doing our shapes, but you can tear off this window by going to the side here and letting go of your mouse. You will have the window here. It just makes it a little bit easier to click through the different options of your pen tool. So if you would rather do that, you can go ahead and tear off your little window. Okay, so the basic pen tool works in an addition state. So if I click anywhere on my artboard, I will add my first anchor, and when I continue to add more points, I will create sides and anchor points on my artboard to create a shape. Just like in Photoshop, when I want to close off my shape, my pen tool will add the little circle next to the pen to tell me that the shape is closing. So if I click here, my shape is now solid. Now my fill here is white, so I'm going to go ahead and change that so you can see. Double click on my color field, and I'll change it to red, and now my fill is red. So if I come down here and I make another shape, it will start to add the field to red even though it's not filled off. But if I keep adding points, it'll keep filling in the red until everything is finished. So if I go over there and finish this shape, it's filled in red. Alright, one of the things that I can do in Illustrator is if I come over here and I select my selection tool and I bring up this selection box over my shape here, I can change the stroke of the sides of the shape. So the stroke weight, if I increase the points, you'll see the black line start to get thicker. So I'll be able to see my line and see the sides of my shape much more visibly as opposed to just one point. This will depend on what you're trying to do, so it's more personal preference. You can also change the type of line that is around the side or the stroke. So let me go ahead and move that up so you can see. So this one, even though it has curved edges towards the end of my line, you'll see that where it meets in the very middle. You can also change it to have more curve throughout the entire thing, and this one will just give me pointed ends, and there's more that you can look through here if you want to play around with that at all. You can also change the type of line. So this one gives it more of like a painted brush, because these are your paintbrush tools. This one gives you the almost like the exaggerated design on the end, and that's more of a gray field. So you can play around with these two as you're looking, but for the basic line, we're going to keep it uniform and basic, just for the shapes that we're doing. Now, if the one point is too small for you and you'd like to see the lines, then go ahead and increase it a little bit so you can see them. So now if I click over on my pen tool, the next line that I do will have a 6-point shape or 6-point lines on my shape so you can see the lines more. This does come in handy, I think, when you are going to the next part of the tool, which is converting the anchor points. That's the next thing we're going to do. So if I click on this Convert Anchor Point tool, this is where I can start rounding my shapes. So if I come over and I click on this anchor and I drag out, it will give me these anchor point handles where I can actually change the curve of whatever point I'm working on. Okay, now there is another way to curve your lines on Illustrator with the pen tool. So if I go back to my basic pen tool, if I click to add my first anchor, if I click again to add another point, now this line is straight, but if I click and hold, I didn't let go of my mouse yet. If I drag out as soon as I click, I will start to curve the line. So now my next point, if I click again, it's going to be curved because I dragged out this handle, But if I click again down here, this point is straight because I didn't click and hold. So if I click over here and hold, I can start to drag out and my line will start to curve. When I click here to close off the shape, it's already curved, so it kind of filled in that space. Now some of the handles are out, some of them are not. If I hold down Alt on my keyboard and I click on an anchor, I can pull out the points. Now this one I just curved out. If I hold down Alt and I click on this point again, it takes it back to an original angled line. So you don't always want to hold down Alt and then click on a point. If I want to move this anchor point, I hold down Alt and click on the handle to drag the line out. So if I go back to this one, hold down Alt and click here and drag out, I can curve that line. So if I want to curve it more, I have to click on the handle, not the original point, while holding Alt. Or I can go to the Convert Anchor Point tool and then click on them that way. Okay, just to show you the other basic options in the pen tool, this is the Add Anchor Point tool and this is the Delete Anchor Point tool. They do just what the description is. So if I click on the Add Anchor Point tool and I go to the path along the shape that I drew here, if I click anywhere where there is not already an anchor point, I can add another anchor point. The Delete Anchor Point tool does just what it says also. So if I want to get rid of this anchor point, I can delete that and then it will just kind of adjust the shape accordingly. So any point that you delete will kind of change the overall feel of the shape. Again, if I needed to change the curve, I would have to click on my Convert Anchor Point tool and then move my handles around to change the curves now that I've added more points. So what you are going to do today is on one artboard, you are going to create some shapes with the pen tool. You will have a total of 9 shapes. The first 3 shapes you will use the regular pen tool and they will be regular angled, side, square, rhombus, whatever you want to make for your points, but they're going to be just regular shapes. No curved edges, just completely straight or angled. The next 3 shapes that you're going to make are going to have curved edges. So when you are using your pen tool, you click and hold to curve your lines. Click your next point, hold and curve your lines. Click your next point, hold and curve your lines. And then when you finish off, click and hold and curve your lines. So it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. You can have as many points in it as you want, as long as every single anchor point you click and hold and drag out the handles so you can convert the angle into a curved line. The last 3 shapes you're going to do are going to be a combination. So I'm going to actually delete some of these shapes to give you some room so you can see. If I click on my selection tool, click on one part of the path, it brings me up all the points so I can hit delete. And now I'm going to go back to my pen tool. So your last 3 shapes will have a combination of curved edges and straight lines. So if I start off with a straight line, the next anchor point that I do might hold down and curve the edge. The next anchor point will curve if I don't hold down, but then the next anchor point will just be a straight edge. If I come over here to the finish part and I hold down, it'll curve out that edge, but the other ones will be straight. So it's a combination of straight edges or angles and curved lines. So you're making complex shapes. So you're going to have 3 straight edge or angled shapes, 3 completely curved shapes, and then 3 combination shapes. That's the first artboard. On the second artboard, you are going to try to draw your name using the pen tool. So first, we would need to make another artboard. So I'm going to go ahead and select my artboard tool here, and I'm going to drag out on the side here and make another artboard. This one, I'm going to zoom out so I can actually make it longer, because if I'm making my name, I didn't click on the part close enough. Get the intersection and drag it out. If I'm making my name, I want space to be able to fit my whole name. So you're going to do first and last name. I apologize if your name is really long, but I want first and last name here. I'm going to click back on my pen tool, and now I'm going to zoom in on my second artboard. If you hold down the space bar, it brings up this hand where you can click and hold and drag over to get more space. So if I'm doing my name, I'm going to start off top part, and I'm going to start trying to making straight angles. Now, as I start to do this, notice how as soon as I click here, the color actually moves along with me. And I'm going to finish off my M. Now, if I'm looking at my M, This part is obviously shorter than this one. So this is where you can actually take your direct selection tool, click on an anchor point, click once so it's colored in. If I zoom in, maybe you'll be able to see that better. See, if I click on this anchor point, the anchor point is actually a solid blue while these ones are actually white. So if I click on this anchor point, that is my selected anchor point. I can move just this anchor point over and try to even out my M here. So if I come over here and I click this one down, I can line it up with the one on the other side. And then I can click my one in the middle here on the top, move that over so it looks like it's lined up, and my points up top could be adjusted too. So if you are using the pen and it doesn't come out perfect, you can adjust after. So there's my M. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so I can see more of my artboard. Space bar, click and hold, and I can move over. Go back to my pen tool, and now I'm going to do an A up to the top. Now, do you see these guidelines that pop up as I'm making my letter? These little green guidelines tell you if you are online with the other point. So now I'm online with the bottom, click over, click that. So now my middle part of the A, again, is off-centered. So if I want to, I can go to my direct selection tool, click on just that anchor point, and move it over. Now it's centered. Now this leg of the A is a little bit wider, so I might need to drag this anchor point out a little bit, and then fix this anchor point too. Those ones look a little bit better. Now you're probably wondering, what am I going to do with the middle part of the A here? So what I'm going to do is, with my pen tool, I'm still on my regular pen tool here, I'm just going to draw another shape inside. So my guidelines here help me out. Actually, I'm going to Control Z. I wanted to angle that one. Angle here, angle over, and then back up top. Now, since my shape is still to a red fill, if I double click on my color, I can change it to white, and it'll be like there was no point there. So I'm going to go ahead and move over to my next letter and do my R. So if I get up to the top here and I need to round this section of my R, when I click on my next point, I'm going to hold it down and convert my anchor out. Now when I click down here to the bottom, this part is curved, right? So if I click on this handle, and I'm going to hold down Alt so I can change it, I can straighten out that angle for the straight part of my R if that's what I wanted to do. I'll go to the top here. And then there's my R. Oops, messed that part up. So if I need to move this over, actually I'm just going to Control Z that, and then I'll close off the shape. So again, now I'm on white because I filled this part with white, so I'm going to have to go ahead and change my color back to that red. The odds of me picking that red again are pretty slim, so I'm going to go to my eyedropper tool, click that one, there we go. And now I need to go back to my pen tool, and I'm going to make the inside bubble of the R as well. So again, when I get here, I'm going to go ahead and click and hold and curve out. And then when I click here, this one will already be curved. Now I'm going to fill this one with white. So I'm going to go ahead and double click, go back to white, and now there's the inside part of my R. Okay, so I'm running out of time for this tutorial, so I'm going to go ahead and do this E and K very quickly, just to show you, finish off the letters here. Again, if something doesn't line up, like that angle of my E right there is a little off, I can use my direct selection tool after and click on the anchor points and move them individually to get the points to line up more. Again, that one's not right, but I'm going to go ahead and do the K just so you can see finished letters. You will do this for both your first name and your last name. You should be able to finish that in one period, along with the 9 shapes on your other artboard. So there's my E and my K. I would go back in and finish this. You can change colors around too if you want, but that's up to you. So once you finish your full name and you have your 9 shapes finished on the other artboard, you will go to File and Export. Remember, go to Export in Illustrator. So I'm on my Day 2 folder inside my Illustrator folder. If your save type is Add AutoCAD, make sure you change it to JPEG. Mine is named Pen Tool, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. Now, even though I had these on 2 separate artboards, since I saved the whole file, if I open up my home drive, I'll show you that it saves it as one picture that you can submit onto Google Classroom. So please submit this finalized picture on Google Classroom, and then you're all done for today. Saves it.